Okay, so going into this film, I have to say that my expectations were fairly managed. I didn't expect that much from this film, seeing as the last time that I saw a Mad Max film, I don't even think I was like able to talk. It's safe to say that I went into this film with pretty low expectations, and I came out absolutely amazed. What George Miller managed to do with this film, I thought was pretty freaking awesome. Really, really cool. To start this review off, I want to talk about some positives that I had with the film and the very, very, very small amount of negatives that I had with the film. I'm not going to say it was a perfect film. On the scale of being not perfect to really perfect, it's kind of up there. General plot of Mad Max Fury Road is you have Charlize Theron's character with the five Ys running from the Citadel to get to a place that Charlize Theron's character Furiosa grew up when she was a little girl. And they want to get back to this place. They call it the Green Place, a place that's supposed to be filled with everything that essentially isn't in the Citadel. Vegetation, a way of life that's significantly better than what they're used to in the Citadel. They are trying to run back to that place in the beginning of the film. Immortan Joe is trying to hunt them down and get them back. He wants Huntington's character, who's pregnant with his son. That's essentially the basic plot of the film, is you have them running from the Citadel and he's basically chasing them down. Throughout this entire chase sequence, you have action set pieces and action sequences that are absolutely amazing. I definitely have to say, with the way that George Miller directed this film, he did it in a carefully crafted way that allowed the audience to become immersed in this world fairly quickly. 5 to 10 minutes into this film, that I was really buying what it was that he was trying to sell. Very, very cool. I thought it was very, very well done as well. One of the other positives that I had with the film was that the intensity scale throughout this film was fairly high. The film kind of has certain set pieces. So you essentially have point A, point B, point C, and then point D. From point A to point B, a lot of the action takes place in there. At point B, you'll go down from, let's say, like an 8 or a 9 down to like a 4 or a 5. Rest and reflect on the action that took place between those 2 points. As far as action films go, I would say that it's definitely up there. Out of all the summer blockbuster films that I've seen thus far, I'd say that this is probably the best action film thus far. Another positive that I noticed in the film was the visual style that George Miller crafted in this film. His usage of CGI mixed with practical effects, which I can definitely tell there was some I couldn't tell necessarily that there was CGI, but I could tell that there were some practical effects, and I could tell that obviously you could tell what is possible and what's not possible. They did a fantastic job of merging the two together. It gives a much more natural feel. Where CGI was used in the film, I thought it was used perfectly. Despite the overall atmosphere, despite the overall dark tone of the film, it definitely felt dark, but it was also somehow strikingly beautiful. And I think that's a testament to the cinematography and visual style that Miller used for this film. I think that because this film was just so visually well put together, that you were able to kind of marvel at the landscape of this wasteland. I did see this film in 3D. Granted, I didn't have to pay for it. I would say that if this was a film that you were kind of on the fence with seeing it in 3D or not seeing it in 3D, you might actually want to take the couple dollar jump and see this in 3D. I didn't get any of that nauseated, sick, dizzy feeling from this 3D. It was really, really well executed. Like within the first few minutes of the film, as you become immersed in the world, it just helps add that extra, I don't know, that extra visual style to make the film look, I guess, just a little bit better. I did actually enjoy it, and I typically don't go to see films in 3D. Granted, this was free, but I did actually enjoy the film in 3D. Probably the biggest standout part of this film were the characters. There are some damn good performances in this film. I'm going to start with Charlize Theron because if anyone's been kind of been paying attention to this film, listening to early word of Malcolm Buzz, you know that Furiosa, played by Charlize Theron, is kind of a highlight of this film. How Charlize Theron manages to smear oil on her face and then be covered in sweat with no arm and still manages to keep that level of prettiness is completely beyond me. Somehow she does manage to do it. All the characters in this film, from Tom Hardy to Nicholas Hoult to Hugh Byrne, all play characters that have several layers to them, whether they be the protagonist or the antagonist. We realize that they're not necessarily all bad. They're not necessarily all good. When the film starts, there's not a whole lot of explanation. It's between these points A through D, the intensity level comes down, and then we figure out more about the characters' motives and why they're reacting the way that they are. Second would be Tom Hardy, who I'm not a huge Tom Hardy fan. I don't dislike Tom Hardy either. He definitely helped kind of move the nozzle a little bit as far as me liking him more. He gets thrown into the discussion for playing a lot of big characters in big films that are coming out, especially comic book character films. Tom Hardy's name is kind of just one of those. He's one of those actors that are just always grouped in to play those big characters and those big franchise films. I definitely do enjoy him in this film. A great performance. Not a whole lot of dialogue from Tom Hardy in this film. A lot of the dialogue out of all the leading characters, the one with the most dialogue was definitely Charlize Theron. The third performance that I wanted to single out was Nicholas Hoult, who I actually really, really love from the X-Men film. I've always kind of been a fairly big fan of Nicholas Hoult. Most of his work I kind of enjoy. In this film, he's definitely a standout character who starts off one way and ends a completely different way. And this is another character that George Miller kind of slowly throughout those points peels back layers of that character's psyche, and we kind of figure out why he's doing what he's doing. It allows for certain characters to kind of make conversions. The last character that I wanted to single out would be Hugh Burns' character as Immortan Joe. It's not necessarily as menacing as he is just scary. There are certain points in the film where you don't sympathize with him, but you're able to at least understand why he does what he does. He is definitely an interesting villain, different from any villain that I've really seen in any action film recently, which I thought was actually kind of cool. I thought he did a pretty fantastic job as the villain, but definitely the big standout performance from this film was Charlize Theron as Furiosa. If there's an action film that could possibly get a nomination, I would say that it would be Charlize Theron's character in this film. She's that good. Going over some of the negatives of the film that I had, I guess you could say overall lack of plot. The lack of, I guess, fleshing out all of the characters wasn't that big of a deal to me. I can definitely see how other people would have issue with there not being as much exposition and as much backstory as they would want from some of the characters. As little as you get from some of the 5 wives that travel with Charlize Theron and Max throughout the film, you kind of want to know more about these characters. They're that interesting. What little screen time they get, they suck it up so quickly that you're like, whoa, 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 I want more. The film is so jam-packed with action sequences and it's so cut tight that there's really not enough time to really explore any of these characters' backstories. That would be a negative, a small negative, if I would have to say one. Another negative that I would have to point out in the film would be maybe the lack of breathing time throughout certain portions of the film. Other than that, I would say this is a pretty damn good summer blockbuster film. I did like it a little bit more than Age of Ultron. I did like it a little bit more than Furious 7. So far, I would say that this ranks at the top of the summer blockbuster films that have come out. And I did really enjoy it, actually. Overall, I would say that if you were kind of like on the fence about seeing this film, it's definitely worth going to see. I think if you enjoyed Furious 7, if you've enjoyed Age of Ultron and going to see if summer blockbuster films are kind of your thing, this is definitely worth going to see. If you're on the fence with 3D, you should go ahead and probably cough up the extra $2 if you can afford it. I do understand that some people can't afford that. Given the overall setting of the film, I thought the 3D definitely helped. Again, it didn't make me dizzy. I didn't feel sick from it or anything like that. I really did enjoy the 3D. Not quite as good as Avatar, but I would say that it's up there with like Prometheus. This film is definitely worth seeing. I enjoyed it a whole lot. I am going to go probably see it again. If you guys are like kind of on the fence or hesitating to go see this film, I don't think you should. A lot of action with strong characters and visually it is stunning. That's my review of Mad Max. If you guys enjoy this movie review, I'm probably going to be doing a lot more of them this summer with a lot of free time. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. I'll probably be posting a couple of reviews every week, maybe 2 or 3 of them every week. But other than that, I really appreciate it, and thanks.